This week on NintenDomain, we assure you, touching is good.
Unless it's illegal in your country, then pick up and play.
Welcome to NintenDomain, episode 56. We are your hosts. I'm Trey Rub Rabbits Johnson.
I'm Jereme DSIXL Mikowski.
This is your place for Nintendo news and Nintendo-related stuff, as always. How's your week been? Playing anything new?
I've actually been playing a lot more Final Fantasy X. That's kind of what I've been into lately. I've had that RPG that I've been wanting to play RPGs, so.
Yeah, playing that Blitzball. That's Blitzball, right?
Yeah.
They had a soccer-type game on there. I never played that game. I just remember watching our mutual friend Ryan play it in college.
That's what I remember, too.
Yeah, and it looked really annoying.
I'm not
but I hope
yet.
I hope it's not that annoying. Well, it looked annoying because of like the camera angles and the I felt like he was getting random battles constantly. Like when the glass breaks and then you're
random battles. Yeah.
I've been playing.
And the summons take for fucking ever.
Well, yeah, that was when they did that though. When it was like all about let's show the spectacle of the summons, and I think they still do. I haven't done any summons on Final Fantasy 15, but I think that they still take a long time on there too, if you can figure out how to do them. Speaking of RPGs, I think I'm getting close to the end of Dragon Quest VII. If I wasn't playing all the stuff for this week's episode, I probably would have been able to finish it today. I think. I don't know. All the shit's kind of starting to hit the fan in the game, and I've defeated the Demon Lord once, but I think I have to fight him again. So I have a feeling that I'm getting close to the end there. I was looking at my most played games on the 3DS, and I think Dragon Quest VII is third now with like 80 hours or something like that. Ridiculous. It like rose through the ranks.
You put a lot of hours in your 3DS. It's been a worthwhile investment.
I did put a lot of hours in the 3DS. My number one is still Animal Crossing, which has 100 hours on it. The new leaf.
Damn.
So, and I think Pokemon X and Y is like number 2 with like 90 hours, something like that. Or Pokemon X was the one that I had. That had a lot of hours.
Did you ever beat? Did you beat X?
I beat X, yeah. I beat that one all the way. I never beat Moon because I got distracted by other stuff. But I'll get back to that at some point. But yeah, hopefully I'll have 7 done by the end of the week and get to jump into 8.
I've been trying to find a physical copy of 8 because the temptation has been to download it, but all the stores I've been to have not had it. I've only seen 7.
Oh, yeah, is it not around? I guess I didn't. I mean, I reserved mine, so I really haven't looked to see. I don't feel like I've seen 7 in a lot of places either, though. So I figured those games are kind of released limitedly, I guess.
Yeah. Well, it's definitely, you can still order it on Amazon, so I might end up doing that, but I've just been keeping my eyes peeled when I've been out and about for it.
I'm sure you can get it on Amazon still for new price and all that.
I'm trying to slow my purchasing of games, getting ready for the Switch, but I'm still spending a little bit of money here and there on PC games.
Well, sure. Well, you got all those Humble Bundles and stuff and Steam
sales.
Right,
and that's really
I'm sure
all
everything's not that expensive.
So I'm keeping the costs down, but I just keep adding more games some that are really good that I haven't even really played yet.
Yeah.
That I'm just waiting to play. And I still have Pikmin 4, for instance. Still haven't played that. Or Pikmin 3, sorry.
You have Pikmin 4? Hey.
Yes, I have Pikmin 4. I picked it up.
We got it. First details here at NintenDomain for Pikmin 4. We have it. That'd be cool. Yeah, the Switch is, was there much Switch news this week? I know there's a Kimishima interview, which kind of like just pretty much confirmed what a lot of people had said. He said that they said the online was going to be between like 16 and 20 something bucks, which is pretty good. I guess there are going to be different prices for it.
Yeah, he's essentially saying it's going to be worth what you pay for it. We're going to provide a good quality service for that price point.
Yeah.
But he didn't really give any more details other than that, the price point, and didn't really even say exactly what it was going to do yet.
Yeah. And he talked what they asked him about re-releasing Wii U games, and I think he said like maybe, probably. Seemed like everything was didn't really give full answers to anything.
Well, he did say that that was not backwards compatible, so it would have to be changed to where it would run on the system. Well, it would have to be converted, essentially.
Yeah, I thought that was that's kind of a dumb question if you know anything about the system.
You know it doesn't have an optical drive.
I mean, there's no CD drive on it, so it's not going to play discs. It doesn't have a disc drive, unless for some reason...
And it's only got... Man, that would be bad.
If it had a disk drive?
Yeah, built into the actual handheld.
It would be like the PSP all over again, right?
Yeah, even worse.
Yeah, because that was a main issue with that was loading times because of the disk.
Unless somehow you could attach a disk drive to the dock, and even then, people are really going to have to want that feature to be able to sell it.
Yeah,
I don't see a whole lot. I think they're going to be better off just re-releasing the games as Switch titles.
Yeah, I don't see any sort of advantage to adding a disk drive on there or having one to begin with. Stick with cartridges and all that. Even though I thought when they mentioned cartridges, I was hoping that they'd be the same size as the 3DS ones and that there was going to be a way where you could, play your 3DS games on the TV and all that. But maybe that's what they were asking about more than the Wii U stuff. But I guess that's not going to happen.
No further news really about the touch screen and how that would be if there would ever be a 2-screen possibility with that system.
Well, this next week, we're going to an event where we get to try it out. So hopefully we'll get to actually see what the cartridges look like, too. That would be cool.
There's some pictures online of them.
Yeah, I was just interesting as like what size they are. I want to kind of hold it in my hand. I'm sure it's about the size of the 3DS ones, maybe a little bit smaller. What I'm thinking.
Yeah, I think they're a little smaller, and I think they might be a little more narrow. If I remember from what I saw, that's kind of what stuck out to me. Sure. Not as squarish.
Was there any Virtual Console releases this week that you know of?
I know that we're getting Mario vs. Donkey Kong tomorrow.
Yeah, that's a really
the Game Boy Advance one.
Yeah, that's a really cool game. That's like the official or unofficial sequel to like Donkey Kong 94, on Game Boy Advance. I remember watching you play through that game all the way. It has a really cool like ending to it, and it has all that ridiculous gibberish in it too, where Mario's like da 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 da. What he's running around.
Yeah, it was a lot more fun than I expected it to be. Because I remember there being a moderate amount of hype about it on IGN, but it still wasn't really. I don't know. It didn't look like my kind of game, but it's a lot of fun once you get into it. So I'm definitely going to be downloading that one.
Dust off that Wii U.
Because I do not own it, yeah. I was playing my Wii U a little bit this week. I played some Xenoblade. That was interesting.
Oh, you went back to the Xenoblade. Give us a Xenoblade report.
September, I think. I didn't do a whole lot. I just flew around for about 20 minutes and fought some dudes.
Yeah.
I still have to save up a bunch of money, and I need to figure out if there's any way to get more probes. I need to get some better probes.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say you can raise money by leaving it on and not playing it. That's what I did. Just leaving the game on and just let your money accumulate from what you have, your mining structures that you have set up.
Yeah, that's what I'm gonna have to do because I need millions and millions.
I think that's. I said before that was partially why I thought there was so much hours on there was because I left it on to try to raise money to buy new scales. But yeah, I still haven't.
Did it work pretty well?
Yeah, somewhat. I'd raise a couple million in an hour or so if I left it on. Just let it go.
Is Yoshi and Poochie's Woolly World out now for the DS?
It is out, yeah. I think it came out last Friday.
Okay.
I think we know. I don't remember if we mentioned that last week, but if we didn't, it's
out.
I don't think we did. Out now.
I tell you haven't bought that because you don't really have a reason to at this point.
I already have it, yeah. But I do kind of want the Poochie amiibo, but I haven't seen him around. But I haven't really looked for it either.
Yeah, the Poochie amiibo is adorable. I thought the Yoshi amiibo was adorable, but it's got nothing on the Poochie.
Poochie is much more adorable. 100% more adorbs.
Totally. And I wonder how his chip works. If it's in one of his feet or if it's in his belly. You have to push him down, push his legs down.
It should be in his tongue.
Maybe it's in his butt. Oh, maybe it is in his tongue.
You have to touch it.
You have to lick the NFC spot.
It's probably in his butt, though. That's where Yoshi's was. Real important news this week. NFC, where are they? In the butts. You hear it here on NintenDomain. Oh, I saw that the guys who made Square was talking about Switch for a minute. They said that they had no intention of
15
impossible. Yeah, they said they had no intention of bringing it to the Switch, but they said they're interested in the Switch, so I guess that says that it could be a possibility. I figured if it was,
there were people that were accusing him of kind of shitting on the Switch a little bit by saying it was for running Angry Birds or something like that.
Oh, well, it can probably run Angry Birds.
Yeah, but not Final Fantasy 15.
No, well, maybe. I don't know. We'll have to see. We
do hope for Square support in some fashion, and I imagine it'll be there. If nothing else, in some kind of virtual console sense.
The full amount of games from 1-2 Switch has been revealed. There's 28 of them in total.
Oh, okay. That's way more than I thought.
And the game that I was talking about last week, which I called the Harry Potter game, is called Wizard. But yeah, I was right. There's a Harry Potter game on there. The one where you point the Joy-Con at each other and whoever points the hardest wins. But here's the list of the 28 games. There's Quick Draw. We've seen that one. Milk. Eating Contest. Ball Count. samurai training, ping pong, safecracker, copy dance, sword fight, wizard, telephone, shaver, runway, soda, baby, Joy-Con rotation, liar dice, a beach flag. I think you said earlier before we were recording that you saw something about a baby one. Maybe that's the one.
That is the one.
Switch.
That is the one. Oh, no, it's real. I was hoping it was fake.
What did you see about that?
It was a lady standing in a room with a crib. You know, it was super creepy and like, because she was holding the Switch like a baby in a blanket, and there's a baby's face on the screen, and she was rocking it to get it to stop crying, and then she set it down in its crib and walked away, and then it started crying as soon as she walked away.
That's right.
So she came back and picked it back up and started rocking it again.
It's the sequel to NintenDogs, Babies. We have it there.
NintenBabes.
Yeah. Well, NintenBabes is later in the show. Well, I guess it's Sega Babes, but I saw this. Some guy apparently has been waiting in line for a month to get the Nintendo Switch. He's recording videos of himself.
Yeah, smart dude. He's definitely starting to get noticed, and he's had pizza bought for him now.
Yeah, he got like a free jacket too.
What's that?
Somebody gave him a jacket?
Yeah, so he's already getting free stuff, and so he's turning into like his own like promotional thing for like other people too, and that's smart. He probably won't have to pay for his Switch by the time he gets to. That's
what our friend of the show, John, who's been on before, he was ahead of the curve. He, as I mentioned before, he and my friend Jesse, they camped out in front of Best Buy for like 3 days. Maybe he should have went for a month to buy the Wii on day one. Maybe we would have got more promotion. Plus, this was on like North Avenue in Chicago. It wasn't like downtown, or I don't know where this guy's at. Is he in like New York? Like by?
I don't remember. It's worth checking out.
Yeah, but he was. John was ahead of the curve there. Nobody gave him anything other than grief for basically sitting in front of the Best Buy and bothering everybody that worked there. Not that he personally bothered them, but sure they threw fits about it. I saw somewhere somebody saying that
he's in New York's Nintendo store.
Yeah. So I figured he's somewhere where people are going to notice him, you know. Like they were lined up in front of the Best Buy, not like the Nintendo store. Whereas if the Nintendo store, then maybe that's going to get a little bit more coverage. Did you see that Castlevania might get a Netflix show?
I did see that.
Is that going to be real? I hope it's they should do an anime one. I mean that's what I would like to see. A Castlevania anime show. There probably is one already in Japan, but I don't know if they're planning on doing it live action or what. This one?
Yeah, I don't know. It would make the most sense to have it look kind of like the art of the game rather than the actual pixel art. You know what I mean? The other art that they have within the menus and stuff. So that stuff's pretty, and it would look really nice if it was animated.
Well, yeah. Yeah, no, like a lot of the artwork on those look good. Like the covers and what you see like in the instruction booklets when there were instruction booklets. It doesn't...
And like the pause menu, you'll see a picture of your character.
Yeah. Yeah, it doesn't say anything about whether it'll be live action or animated, but hopefully it's animated if they are doing it. But I mean, where's that Zelda Netflix series at that they said they were going to do? I haven't heard anything about that ever since.
I haven't either. Maybe it's still in talks.
Maybe they're trying to figure out the right timeline for it.
There will be some sort of like advertisement for it within Breath of the Wild, like on the Sheekish slate. You'll get little pop-up ads about Zelda on Netflix.
I hope so.
I hope so. I'd love some in-game advertising and Breath of the Wild, please. Some billboards and stuff.
There should be some planes coming by that like spell out Zelda, Netflix. Watch it now.
Think about sponsored pots. People could pay to put their brand on the pots that you smash. That's good kind of advertising.
Puyo Puyo Tetris got confirmed for an April release, so you don't have to wait that much longer to get another game on your Switch.
Yeah, and I saw in the picture there was like little keychains. Do you get a keychain if you pre-order it, or how do you get that keychain?
Oh, probably from participating places, I'm sure. Maybe from Best Buy or
GameStop.
Maybe it's a pre-sale thing. Or maybe it comes in the game, like in the box. That'd be cool.
I don't know. I saw some more accessories, nothing, just different cases and stuff for the Switch. I mean, more of that stuff's coming into the limelight. I saw like these really weird looking, I don't know if you've seen them. They're like, basically it looks like it might almost be like a foam rubber case for the Joy-Cons that just gives it like a controller shape. You like put it in there and it lays in it, and then it's got like, it's like that becomes the center of the controller. Then it's got grips and stuff on it, like a normal controller.
Oh.
So it's like an adapter to make it more like a traditional shaped controller as a single Joy-Con. So I thought that was interesting. It looked really simple, but
I see. So it gives like the little like cones on the bottom, like it's handles, kind of like sort of like the Classic Controller Pro did, like where it makes it more like a PlayStation controller, like that type of thing. Yeah, that's interesting.
And it would just make it easier to hold for people with big hands, I would think.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, we haven't gotten to hold it and see how tiny it is, but I'm guessing that it's pretty small. I'm not really.
Well, and then one of them, like, they're not symmetrical, so one of them, like the D-pads that are really like in the center of the controller. That might be kind of weird to use that one.
Oh, you mean the control stick? Because I don't think they actually have D-pads.
Yeah, that's what I mean, the control stick.
That's what I was going to say. Like, I'm not excited to play Street Fighter 2 Ultra with that because I never really liked doing moves with the control stick. But it looks like there's no way to have the two controllers and use a pad for that. You'd have to use it together. So that kind of limits the two-player right out of the box for that.
Oh, you
for
can't
fighting
use the
games.
Pro controller on that one?
Well, you'd have to buy a Pro controller. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I'd have to buy an extra Pro controller. If I wanted to do like two-player, like how it comes with two controllers like in the Joy-Cons, I'd have to get a different controller for like the Street Fighter 1 because I prefer the control pad. But I'll try it out.
Oh, I did finally figure out what model I pre-ordered. I'm kind of disappointed to find out it's just the gray one.
Oh, you wanted the other one? The blue and red or whatever?
I did, but
I
got the gray one.
We can always trade. I don't know which one I have, but if I get the red and the blue one and you really want it, we can trade. Because
right.
I think
you can also
fine.
buy those joysticks separately.
You
so
can?
If I buy a separate set of Joy-Cons, I can get those. But
for like $80.
Right, exactly. I feel like I'm just gonna go for the Pro controller before I get another set of Joy-Cons.
Yeah, and that's like $70, right, for the Pro?
It is.
Yeah, that's crazy.
But it's supposed to be really, really nice. I've heard a lot of good things about it.
Well, hopefully they'll have one that we can try out. No, when we go there, so I can see the niceness of it. I mean, I like Pro controllers, but I have two of them, and I didn't want to buy any more. But I have to buy more now.
You do. I do wonder if there's going to be, because he said within that interview that there was no backwards compatibility with controllers for now. So I wonder if that means they can update that in the future, if they can add compatibility. Since it already has some sort of Wi-Fi wireless technology within it, I don't know if that can be tweaked to work with Pro controllers. I don't know.
Oh,
it'd be
sure.
great, but
yeah, I think all it takes is like a patch, though, right, to get that stuff going. Just some sort of.
I would hope so.
Just some sort of update, and then it's good to go.
I'm going to be sad if my old Wii U Pro controller is useless.
Yeah. I wouldn't completely rule it out. Like, yeah, I'd forgotten that he said that. So that's a little ray of sunshine there in hopes that we might be able to use some older controllers. And especially for anybody who wants to play Smash Brothers, maybe they can find a way to work in the GameCube controllers.
That would be great.
He also talked about different attachments as well, about adding different stuff to the side. So I still think that's going to happen, where they do some sort of different controller thing.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Just the different models of controllers as Joy-Cons.
Well, do you want to take a break then? Unless there's anything else that we forgot about this opening part for news. Is there anything else you want to
yeah,
talk
sure.
about?
Let's take a break.
All right.
Break time.
First of the third pillars.
Yeah, the first of the many third pillars. And
first of the many third pillars.
That's the topic of the week for this week. And continuing our countdown to the Nintendo Switch, we're going to do another launch for you. We'll talk about the DS this time, and its launch games, and the launch of the DS in general. This, as Jeremy said, the first third pillar, the first in many third pillars. So
Switch in 22 days.
Is it 22 days now? From now? What day is it? I think it's like the 8th or 7th or... It's the 8th.
23 days.
Yeah, 20-something days. Do you have any sort of... do you have anything planned out for your Switch release? Are you taking the day off work?
No. In fact, I'll probably get it right before I have to go to work on Friday. So I'll be coming home to play it that night, but I don't know how much time I'll get with it that Friday. I already wish I had set it up for the Best Buy store pickup, but I had them ship it to me.
Yeah. So
depends on when it gets delivered on Friday when I have it. But I also ordered my Zelda through Amazon, and I'm hoping that I get that. Maybe I get that early. just so I can look at it early.
Just so you can stare at it.
Stare at it.
Give your full details of, full impressions of box art.
And what it feels like to hold a Switch cartridge.
Jess is taking off work for that day, so she can watch me play it all day, so that'll be cool.
Wow.
For Breath of the Wild.
I might be able to swing it, but I am taking that Friday off to go play the Switch, so maybe that's just where it's going to get traded off.
But in other news, on topic, the first Switch, the Nintendo DS. Do you remember when this first got announced? I feel like it was 2003,
it was
right?
Late 2003.
When they first started talking about it. I remember them saying like some sort of 2-screened thing, and I guess I never thought of thinking of the original like Game & Watch, which had 2 screens too. You know, I was like, oh, it's going to be some sort of weird looking, 2-screen Game Boy thing before they actually showed it what it looked like.
There was a lot of cool internet art too, and I wonder if I can find any of that people made, like mock-ups thinking what the DS would look like.
Yeah, I remember.
And some of them were just downright hilarious because they were just like Game Boy Advances with an extra screen unfolding on top of it.
Yeah, I think IGN did like a really bad hand-drawn one that was just like the Game Boy and just 2 screens like above it just drawn, like for 2DS, or for the original DS. But I mean, if you saw it, there's signs of it in previous Nintendo stuff, like Punch-Out, the arcade game that had 2 screens way back when. And the Game & Watch systems had 2 screens, so this was already something they had tinkered with before the actual release of it. But not touch screens. That was kind of a big thing.
And some people were spot on about it. But then there were also people that did the silly mock-ups. Like I'm looking at one right now, the Nintendo 8S. Yeah. Where they've got like 8 different screens that fold up out of it, what looks like a Game Boy Advance. That's pretty funny.
Apparently.
But yeah, so it wasn't announced early on that it was 2-screen. Like that's something that got leaked. I think there's like a leak that happened, but they did say they were developing a third device that was not going to compete with the Game Boy Advance or the GameCube.
Yep,
and that was their first reference to the third pillar, as we said earlier.
And until they put a slot on it to where you can play Game Boy games, which pretty much killed the Game Boy, because it's like until they made it completely backwards compatible. Well, not completely. I mean, you couldn't play Game Boy and Game Boy Color games, which I was upset about. But still, and it was around the time of when the Game Boy Micro released with the better screen and all that. But the DS had like a better screen than that, or the other one, that had the better screen. So it was like the best way to play Game Boy Advance games. And that was what I did. Was a lot of what I did when I got my DS for the first time, because there wasn't a whole lot of games out. So I played a lot of Game Boy Advance games on it, and they looked fantastic. They looked better than I had ever seen them before. So,
they kind of nice, big, and bright.
Yeah, they kind of killed the Game Boy Advance in that way, being like, well, it's not going to be a third pillar, but you'll be able to play Game Boy Advance games on it. So it's kind of killing the Game Boy. But
Advance. I don't really remember. I think it was more of a rumor that arose that it was going to be a touch screen, and that was something new. That was not available on many consumer electronic devices. What, like PDAs?
Yeah, PDAs. That's the first thing I thought of when it said that it was coming with a stylus. I was like, those old organizers that were so annoying from the 90s?
So I guess, what was it? Was that the N-Gage that had a touchscreen? Maybe that's what I'm thinking of. Like, there was a game system that had a touchscreen before that.
Oh, did it? I don't know.
I think it was the N-Gage.
In addition to its hundreds of buttons. Or it was the GameCon. I
can't remember. It was one of those two.
Yeah. I just remember the N-Gage was like a phone, too, so it had like 100 buttons on it that all were like keypad. It's kind of hard to
So maybe it was the GameCon that had the touchscreen, now that I think about it. And it was really bad. It was like a super low refresh rate and like very visible, like the little dot marks on the screen.
Oh, yeah.
That made it a touchscreen.
Yeah. Well, the Gamecom was like black and white too, and it came out, I don't know, I feel like it was in the 90s, like late 90s, early 2000s.
It was the early 2000s.
Yeah. But yeah, it was not, and I remember people saying that, it's going to look like where you charge your, where you swipe your card at the grocery store and there's like marks all over the screen with the stylus, like people were talking about that, or having like fingerprints all over it and that it's going to look real gross, but little did they know.
Yeah. The touchscreen was, it left its mark in a lot of different ways. It wasn't just, eventually everybody, that would be the interface that we used for everything.
Yeah.
And little do we know that like the DS was getting us used to that as a concept.
Oh, it was,
That would be using our fingers and, styluses in some cases to input commands into computer devices.
Yeah. And it's something that I'm going to miss. I guess, the Switch has touch in some way, but we're not going to have that second screen. That second screen was always nice. You could always just throw a map on there, and it really helps out for some games, especially RPGs. But we showed it before in our video, but the mannequin hands that were sent out during the touch generation stuff?
Yeah.
I think that was around the time where they made like the cooking game and like Brain Age and all that stuff, like when the DS like fully took off. Did you I'm sure you saw the quote from Yamauchi, which reminded me of the Switch, when he said, if the DS succeeds, we will rise to heaven, but if it fails, we will sink to hell.
Yeah.
What Yamauchi said. That's kind of like how I feel about isn't that like where we're at now with the Switch?
I think so. I really do. I think the Switch is the new DS in that regard. It's a lot of people are comparing it to the Wii, but I'd say it's more like the DS. Or I guess it's like both, right? It's like the DS and the Wii.
Well, it is both, because it does have both, kind of, minus the dual screens.
Minus the second screen, which it does have, but not in a synchronous kind of way.
Well, another thing about DS is I didn't know that DS stood for developer system also. It's another term for it.
I think that's just something that one of the marketing guys thought of. They're like, well, we're calling it the dual screen. Why not say the DS stands for other stuff too?
Yeah. Well, they were probably trying to boast that it was easy to develop for. And it came out as half the price of Switch also, $149.99, which isn't that bad for a launch game. Came with a demo of Metroid Prime Hunters, which I thought was pretty cool. Came with the first hunt, which was just kind of, I think it had like one level in it. But if you managed to beat the level, you got to see a cool trailer for the game. Like it played a video, like when you beat it. And one interesting thing about that game in particular is one of the control styles, there's one where you can play it on the bottom screen and like tap to wherever you want to shoot. Like that ended up not getting included in the final game. Like the only way you could play that control style is in that demo.
Oh. So, no, I didn't know that.
Which is interesting. Well, I mean, I don't know why you
I did have Hunters. I don't think I ever actually had that demo because I got my DS later.
Oh, yeah. It was fun for what it was. I mean, it was just like it's just showing like, oh, hey, this is what we can do with the system. Just kind of explaining the graphical capabilities of it, which was interesting. I mean, it was cool to have something packed in with it, even though it was just a little demo, but yeah, it was a little, it was a little cartridge and all that. They, supposedly they left the Game Boy Advance stuff on there. I mean, well, they did it to use games, but it also was supposed to be, used for attachments as well, which they did. Like, they came out with a Rumble Pack that you could put in there. And my favorite thing was the Guitar Hero DS, finger pad that you could put down there.
Oh, yeah.
That was like probably one of the most fun Guitar Heroes I think I ever played, was the ones on DS. Like, they were really fun to do. Plus, you had one less button, so it made it a little bit easier, I think. It was like 4 instead of 5. But
yeah, you had to hold it real weird, but
it was fun though. And you had a little pick stylus that you could play with. It was like a pick with the stylus on the end, which is interesting. Had the little plastic nub. But yeah, did we mention? I don't know if we mentioned the date. I mean, it came out at the end of 2004. The DS is. And did you didn't get one at launch?
I did not. I just couldn't afford it, man. I really wasn't sold on. It looked cool, but I wasn't really sold on what games it had. And like I said, I couldn't afford it. I was moving. I was in the process of getting ready to move, and I was pretty poor.
Oh, sure. Well, I ended up getting it for Christmas, so I didn't pay for it either. Or I couldn't afford it either. But it was, I mean, yeah, it doesn't seem like all that expensive, like now with the launch, the prices that we see now, because the 3DS.
But I'm sure with price, it's closer to $200 in today's money, right?
Well, yeah, with inflation. Yeah, but still, I mean, it doesn't seem that bad. It was super hideous right out of the gate, like the way they designed it.
Yeah, it was.
The DS Fat was pretty, I don't know what they were going for there. Had some weird angles in there. I got the silver one, because I think I feel like there was only that color in America when it came out. But yeah, I got the silver one, and it was ugly. Like, I was very quick to get a DS Lite, like, once it came out, because that one was like, nah. So I ended up trading in that one for the DS Lite when it came out. And when the DS Lite came out, the first one I bought had a dead pixel in it too, which sucks. So I had to take it back and get another one. Had dead pixels in the screen.
But did you buy this at launch? No, you got it for Christmas. That's right.
I got it for Christmas, but it came out at the end of November, so I got it fairly new. I got it at the end of December. But both of my roommates at the time, Jesse and Tim, like, they both bought one. So I played their versions of it, like, in the meantime. But when I finally got one, like, we used to all play PictoChat from our rooms, like, in the apartment, which was a cool, like, PictoChat was a really cool thing that was included in there, just like, and there were all these different rooms, like, you could fit however many people in there. And yeah, you could draw pictures to each other and send them and all that. I thought that was neat. Like, that was not anything that had happened before. So we did that. I remember one time at Columbia, I was sitting in it's not really like, there's like a open area by the front. It's kind of like a cafeteria, but there's not really. There's like a little restaurant, and it's like the computer lab-ish sort of thing. And I was in there on my DS, and I actually saw somebody on PictoChat that I didn't know. You know, it was almost internet. You know, I mean, because it had to be, you had to be sort of close to each other. But I talked to somebody on PictoChat that I never saw, who was in that computer lab somewhere. So that was cool. That was a cool experience.
So there was a really revolutionary thing about the DS also that we would see, and didn't even see in phones for a while, which was the built-in Wi-Fi that you could connect it to any Wi-Fi network.
Yeah, that was Nintendo's first foray into online, really. Like,
it also had Wi-Fi in the sense that it had local. It could communicate with that Wi-Fi without being connected to the internet with another system, like you were saying, which made like PictoChat possible locally without having to be connected to the internet.
Yeah, it was interesting, and it did that with games. And they ditched the link cable, so you could finally play games like wireless and all that.
Now, did it have? I seem to recall that it had an IR port on it. I don't know if it ever really used it, but I think it had an infrared port.
Did it?
The original one. I don't think that the subsequent models did.
Oh, I don't know. Like on the top?
Yeah.
Oh, it might have. It's been a while since I don't have my
the
old
brick. We should call it the brick, because that's what I think.
The brick?
Colloquial. That's the one I have too. My brick is still around. I don't own it anymore. I gave it to my siblings years ago, but I lived in an apartment where we smoked cigarettes inside.
Yeah.
And we'd had a party, and I imagine it was me, somehow put a cigarette on top of the DS and melted it's got a big old melted spot on the back of it.
Oh no. That's awful.
But it doesn't interfere with the function at all, and it works fine still. Like, I bought it in 2005, so it's pushing 12 years old.
Interesting story similar to that. Like, I was on my way to an independent movie I was working on, and I was in the main actor's car, and his car caught on fire on the way there. And my DS Lite was in the back seat, and the carrying case that I had for it, the front of it got burned. The DS Lite in itself didn't get burned, but it did get soaked with the fire hose, and still worked afterwards. So that was pretty cool.
Wow.
Made it through the water.
Do you still have that DS Lite?
Yeah, I still have it. It's a little, the hinges on it are kind of cracked, so it's like a little flimsy, like when you open it, but it still works.
Yeah, it's the barrel hinge it's called.
Yeah.
Breaks on these things. So this is one of the systems that the DS Lite's one of the systems I've kind of messed around with a little bit and tried to take apart and see if I can fix, because I have 3 DS Lites, and they're all in different states of disrepair. They all work.
Yeah.
But there's only one of them that has a good hinge, and that's my DSi. And that one, the cartridge port doesn't work. Oh. But the other 2 work just fine. They just both have loose hinges. So, they're still quite playable. It doesn't have that nice, it doesn't lock into place. And it's really, really hard to replace the hinges and these things. You have to take the whole thing apart.
Oh, sure.
To replace them. Unlike on the Game Boy Advance that you could do the SP, you can fix those hinges pretty easily without having to take the whole thing apart.
I don't remember having to wait in line or anything for the DS. I don't feel like it was really gone when it came out. Because I think I went with Tim to buy his, and we probably went to a couple stores and ended up finding it at a Best Buy somewhere. So it wasn't as, I don't feel like it was as gone as the GameCube was when we talked about searching for that one. And it definitely not as much as the Wii was, maybe later, maybe the Christmas after they were more sought after.
Did your family find yours on their own, the one that you got as a gift?
The DS, yeah, they found it on their own. So it wasn't really scarce around Christmas, at least as far as I know. I don't remember it being there because as I said, Jesse and Tim both went out and got one, and they didn't have a problem finding it. Yeah,
I think I read online that it actually had a better launch in North America than it did in Japan. But Japan, the weather was kind of crappy that day, I guess, in a lot of places, so they think that might have been why. But
didn't want to come.
It had a decent launch here, but I don't think it had that frenetic Wii level launch.
Oh no,
or what we're probably going to see with the Switch.
Yeah, do you think the Switch is going to be like the Wii or like the DS?
I think it's going to be like the Wii.
Oh, I thought it was going to be like the DS. Where you're going to find them everywhere. Because, people are talking about it, but I don't know if everybody's really sold on it. Friends of mine that I've talked to that I've mentioned about before, I have a couple friends that don't play Nintendo that want to Switch. And I've talked to them lately, And they're basically both saying, like, there's not enough out for it, and they're waiting on it. So it seems like a good amount of people are waiting on that. So it might be more like the DS, but who knows? We'll find out.
I mean, I know myself, if we weren't doing this podcast, I might have considered waiting, but
yeah, I would have waited.
I've really gotten caught up in it. I've gotten really caught up in all the hype and just that whole like, oh god, it's available now for pre-order. I have to because I'm going to regret it if I don't do this now. And I think I would still feel that regret even at this moment in time if I hadn't pre-ordered it. Well, because I would be freaking out over whether or not I was going to be able to get one.
Yeah. Well, I mean, with what I've learned from Amiibo, you'll get it eventually, but you have to wait for a while. So you might as well pre-order it now because you don't know how long that wait's going to be. I mean, I still haven't seen any 3DSs on the shelves lately, so that could be the Switch for like the next year.
It's classic.
And you don't want that
thing. I keep seeing people saying that they're on different websites, and I'll go to them and they're already sold out. That's still happening.
Yeah,
with at least online ordering.
Sure. So let's talk about the launch games real quick. There were 8 games available for it when it. Well, I guess 7 if you don't count Metroid Prime. There were a couple around that came out around the time of launch that may have been on the day or not that I didn't actually play or make notes on. I was one of them being the Herbs, which I did play, which was basically a port of the Game Boy game, so I kind of just didn't bother playing that one. And the other one being Sprung, which I ordered but didn't come in time for the show, so I didn't get to play it. But I did play it before. But the ones that I went over was Ping Pals, the Tiger Woods PGA Tour, Madden 2005, Ridge Racer, Spider-Man 2, Feel the Magic XYXX, and Super Mario 64 DS. Which Super Mario 64 DS is still available digitally for the Wii U. And some people swear by that one above the 64 game, which I don't know why. But, I mean, it's okay. It just, the whole no analog thing didn't really help it. But we'll get to that one. Yeah, there were some interesting releases, like Ping Pals for one, which I thought was weird to sell as a game, especially to a system that already had, like, PictoChat on it for free. To sell, basically a chat-based game, that works in like the local Wi-Fi that we were talking about earlier. But in PictoChat, it's like a bigger version of, Ping Pals is a bigger version of PictoChat, I guess. Like you have an avatar that you can dress up, you can buy different hats and hair and all this stuff, and you can customize your person, you can create rooms, you can have like up to like 18 people or whatever on at the same time, and chat back and forth in that way if that's what you chose, It was an interesting game, but I think the PictoChat ended up hurting it just because it's like, why should I pay $30 to get this game when I already have a free version of it on the system? I mean, there's no.
Yeah, I do wonder if they started developing of that before Nintendo announced they were going to have their own client.
Yeah, they might have. I mean, I'm sure they sent out dev kits earlier for these, right? Than they did for the Switch, which they didn't really send those out, I don't think. But yeah, I'm sure they thought of this once they heard about it before. I don't know. It's an interesting game. I picked it up for a couple $. I can't really do a whole lot with it unless I have other systems. But at least I got to play around with the avatar customizing and all that. And Metroid Prime First Hunt, that came with the system. We talked about that. I played the Tiger Woods game, which is actually pretty good for what it was. It was like all touchscreen controlled, which, was something they were pushing at that time. I mean, I don't think there was any game that was completely touchscreen controlled, but this one was. You use sort of like a V motion to do your like swing power and your fade or whatever, where the ball goes. The graphics look decent. I mean, the DS looks kind of like somewhere between PlayStation 1 and Nintendo 64. I know the system didn't have the same texture filter that the 64 had, so so it looked a little bit more like the PlayStation 64. But
there's something going on where it was like, I read about this, it was like the nearest pixel, or it was called something like that, where it just made everything look more squarish.
Yeah, but it looks okay for what it is. I mean, I played a couple courses.
I'd say the colors were brighter than the 64.
Oh yeah, sure. Yeah, some of it looks a little bit better, but they don't have the texture filtering thing, so it looks a little bit rougher, like in that area. But the Tiger Woods game looks pretty good. Putting's a little difficult on it because it's hard to read the green, and there's no way to really like pick your power aside from like moving, because there's like a target that you move on the green to show like how hard you're going to hit, but it's kind of hard to gauge like what the power is for that. But for first day game, it's all right. If you like those type of games, you can do like the ball spinning in the air thing too by touching the touch screen like to the left or the right to wherever you want to put the spin on your ball too. So it's all right. There's some multiplayer on it, but I think it's multi-cart.
Oh.
But I was impressed with it for what it was. Pretty much the same. They did a similar thing with Madden. Except Madden's not fully touchscreen, but they put all the plays on the bottom so you could touch whatever play you wanted to do. And it also shows the whole field on the bottom screen, like what button to push to throw to whoever. So I felt like that made it a little bit easier. It shows like where the guys are, and it shows the team members as X's and O's, like while they're moving across the field to make it a little bit easier. But yeah, that's a pretty impressive game for handheld. I mean, both of those were like the best golf and football games at the time for a handheld. Like you had never really seen anything like that on the go. So it's pretty interesting.
So you're seeing kind of a variety of the way people were using the technology, in these different launch titles.
Yeah, well, it's kind
of supporting the whole developer system aspect that it was custom to whoever, or it was easy to develop whatever your interface was going to be.
Sure. Yeah, I'm surprised they got games like Tiger Woods and Madden like done so quickly. Just because you had to like really cut everything down from console level to that.
Yeah.
But I mean, I guess they believed in the system, and I think they ended up making 5 different Tiger games, something like that. There were a bunch more of them that came out for DS, of course. I don't know how many more Maddens there were, but the Tiger Woods was popular enough to make more.
Well, and if you think they were, I mean, as far as I know, I think they were still making games for both companies are making games for the Game Boy Advance.
Oh, sure. Yeah. So they
could
scale
it was just
it up from that.
Like, let's just continue to support the Nintendo handheld because that's going well for us.
Were there Tiger Woods Game Boy Advance games? There probably were, I'm sure.
I'm sure there were.
Yeah, I never really looked into it, but my personal favorite DS golf game, it came out later, but did you ever play True Swing Golf? I think it was a Nintendo, it was like some sort of company under Nintendo. It didn't have the best graphics, but it had like incredible control. Like it was the best controlled golf game I ever played on DS. It was really cool. Like I remember playing the shit out of that later, and I never played the Tiger Woods one until now. And there
was a Tiger Woods 2004 Game Boy Advance game.
Oh, okay. And this is 2005, so yeah. And I'm sure there was a 2005 Game Boy Advance also. They kept the Game Boy Advance game. They kept doing it because they probably believed in the third pillar idea as well. When they were making that.
No, I think just 2005.
So those were the ones that I didn't really get. That I kind of passed on, but they're okay. I mean, I picked a couple of them up to play just for this. But one game I did buy was Ridge Racer, which I think this began the whole thing where it's like, let's put Ridge Racer on every system when it comes out.
Yeah.
But
now, if I remember, is this the one where the steering wheel appeared on the screen?
Yeah. This Ridge Racer used the thumb shoe, which we haven't even gotten into yet. But in order to imitate analog control, because for some reason the DS didn't have an analog thing on it. Which is weird because the PlayStation Portable did. It had an analog knob, but they didn't do it for the DS for whatever reason. But it kind of hurt them, so they basically imitated it through the touchscreen. And every DS came with this strap that had like a little plastic thing that you put over your thumb, and you could use it. You could use it to aim in like Metroid Prime Hunters. You could use it to steer in Ridge Racer. You could use it to walk in Mario and Super Mario 64. There was also a Rayman 2 game that came out that used it as well for analog. So
was that a remake of Rayman 2?
Yeah, that was a remake of the 64 game. And
the 3D one or whatever it was called.
And actually, Ridge Racer is a remake of the 64 game also. It's a remake of Ridge Racer 64. They just, made it a little bit brighter and, redid the texture so it looks better because they don't have the filter thing. But that's probably why it was one of the better launch games, because it was a game that was already made and they kind of just ported it to DS. But that game was really fun. Like I had a lot of fun with it. I never played all the way through all the races, but I played about 80% through it and unlike probably about 80% of the cars. And what's funny about that game is, like in Mario Kart where you get to a certain point, there's like mirror modes, where like you turn left instead of right. Instead of mirror modes on this, there's reverse modes where you do the race backwards instead of mirror mode. I thought that was kind of funny.
To where you start like heading in the opposite direction, you mean?
Yeah, you just go the other way. You just go backwards through the race.
That is weird.
So like you're at the starting line, you 180 and then go the other way. And you can see all the arrows that are pointing you where to go are pointing backwards now. I just thought that was funny. I'd never seen any game do that. But it's one of those games that actually, weirdly enough, like the whole touchscreen, the touchscreen emulation of the analog stick actually works a lot better for that game than the pad does. Like I think I got the farthest like just using a stylus on the steering wheel, just because it was a lot easier to turn. Because I feel like every time I hit left or right on the control pad, I'd end up hitting the wall. It's a lot easier to add some finesse to the way you control the car by just using the touchscreen. So that's how I ended up playing most of that game, believe it or not. And it actually worked for the time. Do you still have your thumb shoe?
I do not. Well, you know what? I don't know. It might be on the thing. I'd have to look at it. I haven't seen that DS in a while.
Yeah.
I know it's still at my mom's house, and it's kept up in a nice little case. No one really ever uses it.
Okay.
Because they have like 3 other DSs.
Yeah. I wonder if it still has battery power. They seem to always have battery power. Like whenever I open my old DS Lite, it still has battery power. They seem to last. They last for so long. I actually ended up ordering a thumb shoe from Nintendo because I ordered it to play Kid Icarus Uprising because I thought it might be easier to play with that, because that game actually has like a virtual second thumbstick on it that's controlled by the touchscreen. So I tried using it on that, but it didn't. It doesn't really work as well because it's not really designed for that, for the thumb shoe. It's more designed for a stylus. But I rebought one. You can buy them for like $5, something like that. You can get it for pretty cheap on Nintendo.com. I ended up buying one and they sent it to me. So I got
you can still get them?
Yeah, you can still get them. So I got a new one later. I ended up using it on Kid Icarus Uprising, which, yeah, that game's a whole nother, that could be a whole nother episode. But, yeah, Ridge Racer was fun. That was one of the ones that I thought was better. That was one that I actually purchased. Of the launch stuff, I got Ridge Racer. Yeah, out of the launch games, I got, the ones that I got was, I got Spider-Man 2, I got Ridge Racer, I got Feel the Magic, and I got Super Mario 64 DS. And, yeah, those ones were decent. Spider-Man 2 was made by the same guys who did Tony Hawk on Game Boy Advance, Vicarious Visions. So they had been used to trying to make 3D stuff for 2D, for 2D type stuff. So that game came out after the GameCube one was out, which that one was really cool. They had like the full open world and all that. So they basically had to change it from that and make it more 2D. But they used like fully 3D backgrounds for it, and it looked decent. It was just, I don't know. I found the game kind of not as fun to play because a lot of it was like hunting down hostages to rescue, and there was a time limit on most levels, which made it a little bit, I don't know, not as relaxing. And it really didn't live up to Spider-Man 2 on the GameCube for me. So it was one that I got, but I don't think I ever played through it all the way. It was okay. It had some FMV at the beginning of it, like for the opening video. But as you get into the game, it's just like still shots of the FMV from the GameCube game. So it's kind of like, I don't know. It was definitely the downgraded version of that. But there was actually a secret that you could get if you plugged in the Game Boy Advance Spider-Man, the Menace and Mysterio game in the bottom. I think you get like an extra outfit or something like that for doing that, which is cool. There were a couple games where you could do that, where you could plug in old Game Boy games and unlock stuff, which was a nice thing they just added on there. But it does show off the graphical capability of the DS pretty well.
The Game Boy Advance port was great for everything and everybody, but the Game Boy Advance.
It was just mostly based around fetch quest levels, and it wasn't, It was okay.
I think I remember that game. Like you were saying, it was fully polygonal, but it wasn't. But it's still side-scrolling.
Yeah. It was, the Spider-Man series didn't really fully shine on DS until the Ultimate Spider-Man came out later, which was a really, really good game, I thought. That was my favorite Spider-Man experience on the DS. But yeah, my two favorite games of the launch games were, Feel the Magic and, Super Mario 64 DS. Let's talk about Feel the Magic first. Like, did you get that game?
Yeah, I bought it after the fact. I had already played your copy, but I bought it, late 2005 when I finally got my electric blue DS.
Oh, yeah, you had the blue one.
I had the blue one. I think I'm thinking back on it because it says online that it was packaged with Mario 64, but I didn't ever get that game, so I wonder if I bought this used from GameStop. I might have bought a used DS and might have got it for even cheaper.
Oh, okay.
That might have been why I got it when I did.
Because the price dropped right before the blue came out, right?
Yeah.
So it was like $130 now instead of $150. So it might have been like more around $100 for you, maybe as used, right? I don't know how much the differences were, but
yeah, I remember at the time I didn't have a whole lot of money, but I really, really wanted a DS, and I think there had been some hype around New Super Mario Brothers.
Oh yeah,
and I definitely knew because of that, those trailers and stuff, that I wanted a that I wanted a DS.
I want to say that, I mean, I didn't look it up, but didn't New Super Mario Brothers, didn't that come out in like 2005?
It came out in 2006.
Oh, 2006. Okay, I was going to guess 2005. But yeah, Feel the Magic was, I felt like it was exactly, it basically showed you exactly what the DS could be. You know, it was like this bizarre game with a bunch of touchscreen mini games. You know, just kind of, whereas like Spider-Man or like Super Mario were games that were showing off the graphical capabilities of the system, this was kind of showing you what could be done with the touchscreen interface. And they had stuff involving the microphone and a lot of stuff like involving drawing on the touchscreen or tapping certain areas, or there's even a part where you like type in numbers, you know, like in a calculator type thing. And they definitely
have you played this game recently?
I just played it tonight. Yeah, I played through pretty much the whole game tonight before we started podcasting.
It's silly. It's really silly, and it's like
it's silly, but it's great, and it's kind of
supposed to be semi-romantic.
Yeah, but kind of on a little bit of a creepy way. Also, it's kind of like a sort of perverse in that, you know, Japanese sort of way. It
was being compared to the art style was like, what was it, Target ads at the time before iPod started using those. Same sort of like...
Oh, sure. Oh, yeah, like because there's like no features. Like they're silhouettes wearing clothes.
Yeah, it's like an extreme cell shading almost.
Yeah. It's some of the animations like make it... I don't think it is, but it looks like it's rotoscoped. Like the way the characters move. You know, like they look so fluent that it looks like they, you know, actually like colored over actual footage, which I'm sure they didn't do because it's a video game. But like some of the stuff, the mini games, like I feel like the characters move really well. Maybe because they don't have any features on them and they look more lifelike like that. And there's actually a funny code on the game that, did you know that if you switch the language to Japanese, the character in the main menu is not wearing clothes? Which I thought was funny. Yeah, if you switch it to Japanese, like the female, her top comes off. But she's all silhouette, so it's just a big shadow there. I thought it was funny.
Oh wow! I guess this game was released in so it's called Feel the Magic XYXX for us.
Yeah.
It's called Kimi no Tame Nara Shineru, which means I would die for you in Japanese.
Oh,
then in Europe and Australia, it was called Project Rub.
Oh yeah, no, I remember that because it had a sequel that came out called The Rub Rabbits, which I have that one also. Which that one incorporated another girl that liked you that you didn't like that you had to run away from. I remember that, and that one got a lot more edgier. There's a part where you have to, where you basically have to like, you spend a lot of time like closing pop-up windows on a website. I thought that was funny. There's a game based around that, and there's also a fairly edgy game on there where you touch the girl in the dark, where you kind of like feel around in there, you know, which could be a sexual game that they put on there. I thought that was interesting. Well, this one had the one where you take the buttons off of the dress after you get. There's a part where you wash up on an island and you have to take her dress off by tapping the buttons at a certain time. So there's like stuff like that that's kind of like, you know, it's weird but it's funny. I mean, I think it's super Japanese. I love that stuff. But it was the perfect game for me at the time. I think I probably played that game more than any of the other games that came out for the DS. Like that was like my favorite game. Because there was like, you know, you unlocked, like once you played the game, you could get the game on Maniac mode, where you would play it longer. You know, you would go like more rounds with less lives. There was a painting game on there where you would like paint hearts and stuff, and you'd have to like dodge stuff falling from various windows above you. And if you get far enough into the Maniac mode, you start painting pictures of Sonic, which I thought was pretty cool.
That is cool.
Sonic makes an appearance in there. So they do, you know, it was a Sega game, so they did a little bit of that. In the instruction manual of it, there's a part called Microphone where you like basically yell at the girl and try to get her to come over to you. And it's just a microphone. You can just blow on the microphone and she'll still come over. But in the book, it's like, you can yell other things to her, like Sega and Sonic the Hedgehog, and she'll still come over. I thought that was really funny. I guess I didn't figure out at the time that it's just reading noise. Like, you could say anything and she'll still, like, come over to you. But yeah, that was a fun, intriguing game, and I felt like they understood like what the DS was going to be, and this was like the perfect game to launch with it. It's like this is how we can use this, like to mini games, like much like what you see later in the Wii. But I felt like it was a perfect fit for the system, and
it was strange, but anybody that got their hands on it would want to play it, or at least watch someone play it. I think it was compelling because of how unique it was at the time.
And it was really easy to play. Like, there was not really much explanation to it, It was like, tap this, do this. Like, there's no buttons used. It's all touchscreen controlled. But it's not really, I didn't feel like there was a whole lot of confusion on how to play it. You could hand it to somebody and they'd figure out what to do on it. There's not really much explanation in the game. There'll be like maybe a couple words saying like, do this. But yeah, it's completely approachable. What I found funny, like, when you turn on the game, I like how there's a warning that says, do not attempt to recreate any of the situations seen in this game. Well, it involves you like fighting off bowls for her, and what is it? There's like I know there's like sailing, and avoiding sharks, and there's a part where we have to flick scorpions off of her back but not touch her. There's a part where you like hold her hand. There's another part where you have to wash her. Did you when did you play this last? Did you give it a go before we started?
No, I haven't had a chance to play. I don't own it anymore. I wish I did. But,
I thought you still had it.
Need to find it.
You can get it. You can get it for a couple bucks on eBay.
I bet it's cheap.
I accidentally bought it before I realized that I still had it, and I ended up canceling it. But I think I got it. I think I ordered mine off eBay for like $4, like complete, no shipping, with the box.
I believe it. I mean, I remember seeing this game everywhere. I think they made a lot of copies of it.
Well, I think it sold really well just because it was such a unique idea for such a unique system.
Was it less? Was it like a cheaper game? Maybe because wasn't the DS when they started charging $40 for games?
Oh, no, that was 3DS. It was still $30 for DS. I think.
Really?
I'm pretty sure. I feel like the jump was for 3DS, or maybe not. I don't know. I thought they were still $30, or was it the jump between Game Boy Advance and the DS?
I thought that's when the jump happened, but I don't really have a way to prove that.
Oh, I mean, you're probably right. If anybody, write into NintenDomain.podcast@gmail.com and let us know, please. So I put a thing on Nintendo Voice Chat asking people to talk about their stories about getting the DS at launch. Jake King said, there was a 3-month wait for the Aussie release compared to USA and Japan, which I remember. I think they said that in an E3 thing that I watched.
Yep.
So he said he ended up ordering his from Hong Kong. First thing he ever bought online. So he got a Chinese DS. And which DSs were region free, right? I think they were, because you ordered didn't you order a game from Japan to play on your DS?
Yep.
Yeah, they were region free, so he could buy it from Hong Kong and still play English games on it. Our friend of the show, John Knitter, he wrote in, said he didn't get his at launch, waited for Nintendogs, which he thought was the true launch of the system, that game was super popular when it came out.
Uh-huh.
And this he talks about the story that I was involved in, actually. I remember when he got his DS, I brought my DS over, and his roommate at the time had a DS, and we were all playing Meteos, like, at his apartment. He was on the 3rd floor, and we were playing the game on the balcony, and his roommate, like, was coughing while he was playing, and he actually dropped his 3DS from the 3rd floor balcony, and it hit the ground and split in half.
Oh my gosh.
I was there for that. He like dropped his 3DS. Like he dropped it. Like we all had our own 3DS and he broke his 3DS and I was like, man, sorry dude. But yeah, we were playing Meteos and he coughed so hard that he dropped his 3DS and broke it.
Did he get a new one?
I don't know. I mean, he was a roommate that was only there for a little bit. I didn't really talk to him very
That's
much. That's
heartbreaking.
But yeah, I was like, man. And that thing just completely broke in half. So we get to see what happens when you separate the screens. We get to see the screen separation.
Yeah. Once they're split up, I don't really think it's easy to get them back together again.
Probably not. Yeah. I'm sure the hinges on that are pretty hard to deal with. But yeah, it's you should totally get that game if you want to relive some of the craziness. I was having a great time playing it earlier. I think it's really holds up like over the years.
I'd want to check out the sequel because I don't think I ever played that one.
Rub Rabbits is great too. For some reason, I have 2 cases of it in one game. I don't know why I ended up with I have an empty Rub Rabbits box. I guess I could sell it on eBay for like $20, like other people do on there. I don't think anybody would play that much for it, but I do see people selling empty boxes. But yeah, I have 2 boxes of it and only one copy of it. So I don't know if I lost one and bought another one or something. Actually, I think I might have lent it to somebody who lost it, and then they bought me a new version of it because they lost my version. I demanded a new one because I like that game. But yeah, there's extra stuff. You can unlock like outfits for the character, and you can change. You can like Barbie doll your girl character on there and give her different haircuts and different swimsuits and boots and stuff like that from playing through the game. And there's like a heart level that you have to build up for each different section of games. Like if you beat one game, you'll get like 45%, and once you get to 100, you'll like see a cutscene and go on to the next part. It's basically the way it works. And every time you lose a level, your heart meter goes down. So you might have to play some games multiple times to get through if you lose enough lives to lose it completely. But yeah,
I think if you're playing on the like beginner difficulty, that's not going to even be an issue. I just bought it on eBay.
Oh, was it? Is there a difficulty on it?
Yeah, there's different difficulties.
Oh, okay. Because whatever I was playing on, I lost a couple times. Like some of the levels are kind of hard. But I might be playing on a harder mode or on a normal mode. I don't know. I didn't look at what I was on. But I thought some of the games are more difficult.
I just paid $5.44 with shipping.
Yeah, that's about right. Yeah, it's totally worth it for that. We could do a Feel the Magic report whenever you get that and give it a go. It's totally fun. There's a villain with a mohawk which you fight a few times. There's like a driving part where you drive around and scoop up Rub Rabbits and throw them at him.
Right. The villain was kind of like after the girl too, right?
Yeah, I guess.
He had like a pompadour, if I remember.
He had a mohawk. He's like a big guy with a green mohawk. And the Rub Rabbits are like this group of people that help love relationships start or something. And they got their own game later. Because I think your character ends up becoming a Rub Rabbit in the second game, like the dude does, because he already has the girl,
So then he's like, might as well go help other people get people.
But he does have a girl that's after him that you have to avoid. I remember that in the second one. But let's go to the main game that came out, the big Nintendo release for the DS. Last but not least,
a brand spanking new game.
Sort of. Super Mario 64 DS?
Yeah.
It was new, but not new. Did you end up getting this game?
No, I don't have this. My brother has it.
Oh, okay.
He still has it. I've thought about downloading it.
Oh, yeah, you can get it for $10
on the Wii U a couple of times.
I'm sure it'll look really good on the TV. I mean, the game looks pretty good for what it is. I mean, it looks better than the 64 game did, which interestingly, like we were talking about before with the how they had the filter for the 64 games. Since the DS didn't have that, they actually went into the game and like made the textures look better. So the game would look sharper like when it came out. So they actually did go in and rework all the guys and made Mario's made his polygon look better and like made the enemies look better and all that. And they added stuff to the game. They added like 20 more stars. Like now you could play as you actually start the game as Yoshi, which is weird. And you have to go find Mario. Wario and Luigi are in there also as playable characters. And they all have their own like special secret levels that only they can access. And they all have different abilities that they basically divided some of the stuff that Mario could do in 64, like only like I think like the invisible and the thing that makes you invisible, only Luigi can do that. And Wario he can break like bigger blocks with his fist because he's stronger. But they added stuff like that. And the coolest thing was you could unlock these touch-based mini games in the game, which they actually included in New Super Mario Brothers as well. Kind of like in the Game Boy Advance, where the way they did with Mario Brothers. They did that where they released another game with those same games on there, and you can actually play against each other. You can play multiplayer from the New Super Mario Brothers one with Super Mario 64 DS. So that's pretty cool.
That was my favorite part about it at the time when I played other people's copies.
Yeah, no, that was really fun. Actually, that's probably one of the best things about it is playing like two-player, those the touchscreen multiplayer games that they have there, that's really cool. Like, I enjoyed that a lot. It's too bad you can't do that in some capacity on the Wii U version of it. You know, it'd be nice to be able to play that online. They should release that for, well, they couldn't, I guess. If they could release that for the Switch in some way, that'd be really cool. But that's probably what I had the most fun with from that game, was playing the mini games on multiplayer.
They were cool too. They were a lot of fun. There was like card games and matching games and like a pachinko, I think, and like a...
Yeah, there was. And there was like a He Loves Me, He Loves Me Not game that you could play with Yoshi, where you just pick the petals off a flower. Like, I thought that one was really funny. Yeah, there's like a whole like card game where Luigi like deals cards out to you, and Toad's in the background serving drinks, like he's walking around with a platter of drinks. I thought that was really funny. There's a lot of stuff based on 64, obviously. I remember there's one where you have to draw trampolines to keep Mario jumping in the air. There's another one where you like redirect him so you can land on various enemies. There's like other ones using like a slingshot to fling like bombs and other cannons and stuff like that, cannonballs. Yeah, there's a lot of cool stuff on there that ended up being really fun to play.
Kind of like where Nintendo was just dumping all their tech demos. But
yeah,
it's still really cool.
Yeah, no, they totally did that. They were just dumping their tech demos. I forgot to mention that I think Ridge Racer was the only game that had a download play on it, where you could actually play multiplayer with only one card.
Oh,
speaking of that, because that was a thing. I mean, you could do it. You could do it on Super Mario or Mario Kart Super Circuit. You could do that. You could do download play for Game Boy Advance. I remember we used to do it, where you would connect the links and you would only have to have one game. So they had done that before, but as far as like wireless download play, I think Ridge Racer was the first game to do that, which is pretty cool.
So Mario 64 DS didn't do that?
No, you had to have 2 copies of Super Mario 64 DS.
Oh, now did that have 2-player mode in it on the actual adventure?
I don't think so.
Okay, the 2-player was just the mini games.
Oh no, maybe it did. It might have had a 2-player. The only multiplayer I played was no, it did. It did have a 2-player thing also, but because I played that a little bit. But what I had the most fun with was the touch-based games that were on there.
Wow, that'd be interesting to check out. I've never played the adventure mode 2-player.
Yeah, I think it was. I don't think it was like the full game 2-player. I think there was like a smaller version of that you could play, where you'd walk around and get stars or kill guys or something like that. I very vaguely remember playing it. I only have one copy of Super Mario 64 DS right now, so I couldn't really do it. And a funny thing about my Super Mario 64 DS, like I got it for Christmas, like, you know, with my DS, and I ended up selling it because I wasn't really a huge fan of it. But I ended up buying it again later on the 3DS, so I could play it with sort of analog control, because you can use the analog on the 3DS to play it, and it does feel a lot better like that. So if you got it on the Wii U and played it with the analog trigger or controller, it feels a little bit more like analog. Even though you still have to hold Y to run, it feels a little bit better than using the pad to do that, you know. And we didn't even mention about we mentioned it earlier in other games, but yeah, this one had a virtual analog with the touchscreen and the nub and all that, which was supposed to be the way to play it, but now I just go back to the, you know, control pad Y version. I think that's a little bit easier to do. Mm-hmm. But it was so weird. It was so weird at the time for them to release a game that was so focused on analog control and have it not have analog control. You know, that was a really strange choice. I mean, I guess they wanted to show how good the graphics could be, but taking the analog out of it was really a weird way to go about it. That's what sold
the analog control in the first place on the 64 was Mario 64.
Well, they built that whole game around that controller. They probably designed that controller to play that game. You know, that's how Nintendo normally works, like that. And that introduced everybody to analog, and now it's like, okay, here it is again, but without the true analog. And it just felt like a just weird way to go about it. Definitely a missed opportunity, I guess, or just a miss in general for that game, because that game is really, really cool, and it kind of, I guess that it sort of made it so Super Mario 64 couldn't come out on 3DS later, now that 3DS had an analog, you know, which kind of sucks, because I always wanted that game to be fully portable, like in the original version, and I guess we'll probably get it in some way for the Switch. Yeah. But it sucks that we had to wait so long. It should have been available for 3DS, you know. They made other 64 games on there. But it also like gave the idea that it was like, oh yeah, we can get 64 quality type games on here. Even though I think that was, that was the only one from Nintendo that was ported on there to straight up DS.
So the DS came out in North America before it came out in Japan.
It did?
Yeah, it came out not a whole lot, like 2 weeks, about 2 weeks before.
Oh, interesting.
Not even quite 2 weeks. Let's see, it was 12 days earlier.
Yeah, like a week and a half. About. Is there anything else you'd like to say about the 3DS?
Or about the DS?
Or the yeah.
I mean, other than talking about
thinking of better things,
more about like the later hardware iterations. I mean, we don't really have to do that other than just to say that this thing I think was not even just revolutionary in the handheld sense. I think it paved the way for the Wii for that more experimental strategy and whatever you want to call it, the blue ocean, where you're like creating a new audience or you're harvesting an audience that didn't exist yet, or whatever they say.
Yeah. Well,
I mean, I don't think you see on like the 3DS, for instance, I don't think you've seen as much of a push towards the casual gamer. Like the DS had a lot more software on it that was more for like casual gaming, I think.
Yeah.
You even had like interactive cookbooks and stuff like that you don't see on the 3DS as much.
Well, the 3DS did launch with NintenDogs plus cats, but I think that by the time that came out a second time, nobody really cared anymore. So they had to kind of go for a different approach. But yeah, the DS definitely was, you're right, it was the beginning of that Wii type of mentality where it's like, let's try to make a game more for everyone, not necessarily for gamers. And you had stuff like Brain Age, which was really popular because it just involved writing, which everybody knew how to do. Writing and just picking certain things. And there were cookbooks, and there was the NintenDogs, and I think NintenDogs was really what really got it going, as John was saying. Yeah.
Oh, you're right. And I mean, and then eventually like Brain Age and games like that got casual people playing to feel like they were expanding their mind or whatever.
Yeah, NintenDogs was like the breakout game. But then you had stuff like. Then you had like stuff like Professor Layton and Phoenix Wright and stuff like that came down the road that was more like adventure puzzle type stuff.
And then eventually with the DSi, you even got like even smaller like download games that were just like even just like calendars and PDAs and
calculators,
alarm clocks and
calculators, Animal Crossing based alarm clocks and stuff like that you could buy for $5, or I think a lot of them were pretty overpriced, but yeah, that's what came down the way. I never was the DSiWare was that pre WiiWare? Was that post WiiWare?
No,
it was post WiiWare. DSiWare was.
I think so, because the DSi came out in 2009, and the Wii had already been around for a couple years at that point.
Oh, okay, yeah, because WiiWare was like right out the gate. I wasn't sure, but yeah, DSiWare came around later.
It was the second eShop. We'll say that.
Yeah, which you can still buy DSiWare stuff. I actually bought a Dragon Quest game that was on there that I didn't know about. There's a turn-based strategy Dragon Quest game on DSiWare called Dragon Quest Wars. So
Is it fun?
I mean, it's okay. I mean, I purchased it just because I'm a Dragon Quest addict, and I just try to get everything that I can of theirs. But yeah,
I do have a DSi that doesn't work for anything but download games.
Oh yeah,
you can't put cartridges into it.
Yeah, I think so you can get you can get some of the original Game Boy Advance stuff on there.
Or I could just get it on my 3DS.
Yeah, so just get it on your 3DS. That's where you can get it. I hope. I'm wondering. I guess some of that stuff probably won't carry over. No, why would it? The WiiWare stuff didn't carry over really.
Yeah, we didn't really talk about it, but the DS did at one point get a web browser, which may not seem like that big of a deal, but
which I never
this once
used,
again kind of predates comfortably using the internet on your phone.
Oh sure, yeah. Yeah, no, it was, because this was in pre-smartphone era when the DS came around, and I remember playing I was really excited about Mario Kart, because that was like their full-on internet, their full-on foray into internet, or foray into internet.
And was it Hunters? Was that the first one with voice chat?
Maybe. I think it was, because I
remember talking to you.
Yeah, we used it and voice chatted on it.
On it, and it was just like, I was pretty floored by how clear it was. It was like I was talking to you on the phone, really, Yeah, kind of the experience we're going to get with the Switch, I think. But
yeah, but hopefully it's. I mean, that was the same thing. You could only talk in lobbies. You couldn't talk while you were actually playing.
Yeah.
Even though some of the, I don't know if it was before or after, but the Pokemon games had voice chat in them too. The DS ones did. I think Pearl did. Pearl and Diamond. Because they actually made like a headset thing that plugged into the bottom of the DS that you could talk into, which is crazy.
Oh, we also didn't talk about that weird controller. I don't think it ever was released here, but do you remember that it was that game where you were like a magnet or something, and you set your DS on the table and you like slid it around?
Oh no, I didn't hear of that.
Oh, it never was released here. I think it was a Japanese exclusive game, but it was a weird like peripheral that was essentially like an optical mouse that you attached to your DS, and then you slid the whole system around to control within the game.
Oh sure, yeah. I mean, I believe that stuff would happen. Yeah, well,
there was a lot of weird stuff that we maybe even if we saw it, we didn't care about it and get it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the DS had the DS had all different stuff. I mean, it had the Poke Walker too, like where you could plug it in. It would count your steps and all that with the DS Pokemon versions.
It also had an 8-year life, essentially.
Yeah, it was great. It was a great.
Well, no, it was 2011 that the 3DS came out.
I thought it was 12.
I think it is.
I thought it was 2012, but I might be wrong.
But needless to say, I mean, the DS, even though it just like with the DS, the 3DS XL, the 3DS, new 3DS, and all that, like. There are a lot of different iterations of it, but it dominated the handheld scene. Like it didn't really. It came out in 2011, March of 2011 is when the 3DS came out in North America.
Okay.
So it had a 7-year life, right? Or 6.5-year life.
Well,
I mean
it's still going.
And the PSP came and went. Yeah, the PSP came and went.
Yeah,
and a lot of people thought because it was graphically superior, in a lot of ways, that it would beat out the DS, but of course it did not.
Yeah, that was the whole thing when the PSP came out around the same time as the DS, and everybody was like, oh, the PSP, it's so powerful, it's going to like bury Nintendo, because Nintendo was always the king of handhelds, and it didn't. And I kind of said the same thing with Vita, and it didn't either, but they kind of screwed themselves over with Vita. But the PSP, they sort of did too, because they used like a disc base, they used like discs for it, so it, had loading time issues, and for something that's portable, you should be able to, it should be fast. You should be able to play it and with like no loading time or anything. You should be able to turn it on, play it for like 5 to 10 minutes, and then turn it off. And a lot of games for the DS, that's how they worked. Same even with like Super Mario 64, it could work like that. You go get a couple stars, and then you're at the end of your bus ride, and you're good. Time to go to work. So why they ultimately defeated that.
And it folded up nice and neat, and the screen was protected.
Yeah, that was the best thing ever, the whole clamshell
pop
thing.
into sleep mode.
Yeah, you could just shut it, it would go straight to sleep mode, it would automatically pause no matter where you were at. That was like my favorite thing. You could close the Game Boy Advance, but it never actually shut off like that.
No.
So that was a major thing for the DS. But yeah, it had a lot of stuff. I mean, it ended up having a huge library, bigger library than 3DS, even though the 3DS has a big library. But yeah, the DS was really good. Lots of good RPGs. And I remember there were a lot of games that had never been on Nintendo consoles before, which came to DS. Like there was like an Age of Empires game for DS, which I was like, what? Like there was like a turn-based strategy thing instead of like the real-time strategy. Like interesting stuff like that. Like it was popular enough that people were trying new ideas with it, which is always cool.
I think it's pretty nice that even with the because over time with the different iterations of the different systems, we lose different elements of backwards compatibility, but even on the newest model of the 3DS, you can still play DS games.
You can.
So that's pretty sweet, but because of the similarity in size of the cartridges, I mean, they're pretty much the exact same size, they just have, one of them has like a little fin on it.
Yeah.
Because of that, they really didn't have any need to get rid of backwards compatibility. I think maybe that's the reason, I don't know, but it's great that you can play games from 2004 on a system, 13 years later almost.
Yeah, you can play 2004 games on your system now in 2017.
So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's totally cool for sure. Well,
but yeah, I mean, we could probably ramble on about the DS a lot because it had quite a lot of influence, and We're going to see even more elements of it in the Switch, I think.
Well, we can do more DS stuff in the future. I kind of wanted this one to be a little bit more based on the launch of it. Just as we come up to the launch of the Switch, but I think we're good on this episode right now. If you unless there's something in particular you want to say before we sign off here.
Not really.
All right. Well, we've been your hosts. I'm Trey Johnson.
Jeremy Mikowski.
And this has been episode 56. You can email us, as I said before, NintenDomain.podcast@gmail.com. NintenDomainPodcast.com is our website. You can find us at Facebook/NintenDomain, or you can find videos at YouTube/FingMater. We'll be back next week to talk about the Switch when we actually get to go hands-on with it at Nintendo's event in Chicago, so that'll be cool.
Maybe we'll have some multimedia for you, too.
Yeah, hopefully we'll get some videos up on the YouTube site for that as well. But until then, rate us on iTunes and tell your friends, and thanks for listening. See you next time.
Thanks a lot.
Ridge Racer.